on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael Thurwell, photojournalist and sociologist here at VEDA World News. Now, we have someone very, very, very special today. Sir, introduce yourself.
My name is Norris. I am a lawyer by day. I'm a lawyer at the City Attorney's Office here in Houston. I am a former school board member here in Harris County. I was on the Harris County Department of Education Board.
Wow.
I wear a bunch of hats. I mean, I'm a community activist to a degree. I'm a plaintiff on a lawsuit against Texas for some voting rights. So
What?
I wear a bunch of hats, and I'm also a husband, a father, and like I say, I just wear a bunch of hats. So I try to do good trouble, and I try to
Good trouble. Good trouble.
Good
okay. Let's start here with law school.
Okay.
What was that like for you?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, I know most people think law school is a scary thing. I studied chemical engineering.
Really?
My first degree, so it wasn't that hard. That was much harder.
Okay.
But I have generally I have a pleasant law school experience. I actually met my wife there. Mm-hmm. And then I actually worked there for 12 years. So I tell people, I said I went, TSU. I said TSU gave me a law degree, gave me a wife, and it gave me a job. So I have,
You cannot beat that. That is the new trifecta. You hear me? Go ahead, sir.
So I mean, all around good experience. I mean, I taught there for about a dozen years. Some of my earlier students are now like judges and other things. So it's kind of interesting in that space. Some people always said, that was your professor? Like, how old? Like, they look at me like, well, how old are you? Like, it must be, Lord, you're not old to have, law students are a little different. It's not like elementary school students. So, but it was a good space. But law school generally, it is a interesting process to me, being on both aspects, being a law student, you go there, it's a 3-year process, and which seems like a lot to some people, but for me it took me 5 years to finish undergrad. So the 3 years of law school kind of went by fast to me.
Understood.
And then watching from the perspective of like teaching at the law school, watching the students kind of come in very rough and then kind of leave polished, go out and make big money, and do big things is, awesome. I get to, I see one of my students, I saw her on the stage with Oprah, and I was like,
wow.
Okay, I was like, and that became my joke to the rest of the students that year. I was like, everybody, I need some pictures with Oprah handing a check or something like that. So, but yeah, so it is an interesting process. You kind of come in from because most people, there's no real prerequisite for law school.
Okay.
Law covers everything, so you have somebody that comes from all kind of fields. And it's their job to take you from knowing nothing about law to becoming, able to speak and breathe law and go out and do work for clients. So it's a whole process, but it's a very interesting process.
Backtrack to the chemical engineering.
Okay.
What happened there?
I was strong in math and science in high school and kind of growing up. I was always strong in math and science. And originally when I applied to 4 schools for undergrad. One program I applied to was at UT. It was like an engineering route to business, and I was thinking I want to do business and engineering together. That program was a little weird. For some reason, I got accepted to the engineering program, but that program was a little bit more competitive, and I decided at the time UT wasn't. They were having racial issues with some of their cases, so I was like,
Really?
Yeah. I mean, so I graduated high school in '98, but the Hopwood decision, which basically said, where basically a white guy said, these black people took my spot in law school. That case was decided the year before '97. So I graduated high school the following year, and I was like, do I really want to go to a high school that was, big, not so? I go to a college that was kind of not as super diverse, but then I ended up choosing U of H because I was like, it's in Houston. It was way more diverse number wise than UT and the other schools I applied to. So ended up coming here, and then decided to study engineering because I was like, well, I got accepted to the business school, but I was like, couldn't figure out what I want to do in the business. It was suggested, you get an engineering degree, you could always get an MBA, but it's hard to get a business degree and then say you want to do something in engineering. So
Gotcha.
I went and got, I said, I like chemistry, so chemical engineering, how hard could it be?
Oh,
it was hard. It was pretty hard. So it was. Let's just say it was very much a challenge. My favorite thing, you mentioned law school. I said, one of my most interesting times when I was on the verge of graduating, trying to get my senior design project done, and I had like a 60-hour day one time. I woke up on a Saturday. I was like, I'm gonna work on that project this weekend. I'm just gonna keep working until it's done, and then all the way till Monday when it was due, I was sitting there working. Just never quite found the time to sleep. So I was like, I never had a 60-hour day in law school, but
really,
yeah.
A lot of people equate going to law school with a lot of reading, a lot of studying, a lot of hours.
It is a lot. It is a lot of hours. It's a lot of reading. But I still never had to do a 60-hour day kind of reading. So like with engineering, it's not a lot of reading. That's the opposite part. So that's the part that's interesting, because when you study engineering, most people, when you hear reading, like it's almost a bad word in engineering, because you know, who wants to read formulas all day? It'll put you to sleep, right? Most engineers, they have a big book. You flip to the page that has the formula you need, and you kind of pick that and you kind of go on it. Okay. So with law school, you're reading, but I will say the reading is way different. It's like reading stories. So law school is reading case law for the most part. You read the cases that happen, and you try to apply the principles. So that's the idea of law school. You read a lot of cases, which are kind of stories to me. They were more like reading novels than they were reading formula books.
Wow.
So it wasn't as bad a reading. Because I know people like it is a lot of reading. I will say it is a lot of work. I will say that it was a lot of work, but it wasn't the hardest work I had done. So it was a lot of work. It still was a lot of work, but it wasn't hard.
Let's ask a quick question. What is your day-to-day work routine in the position that you're currently in? What is that like?
So currently, I am the Proposition A lawyer for the city of Houston. So for those who aren't familiar, Proposition A was passed in 2023 by the voters. So basically, up until then, the mayor set the agenda, and the only thing city council members can do is vote on it. They can vote it up or down. It's 16 of them, is one of him, so they can vote whatever on the agenda up or down. In 2023, there was a measure that allowed three or more city council members bring an item, they can bring it right to the agenda. If they get 3 signatures, they can bring it right to the agenda. And that's through the Proposition A method. And in 2024, I guess they realized, well, we might need a lawyer because the agenda is a legal document. Everything going out. It is most definitely a legal document. So they created this position, and I got hired at the beginning of this year as the first person in that role. So,
well, what is it like to be the first person to do something like that for City of Houston?
It's a lot of figuring it out. Because when I got interviewed, the question was, because the thought was, well, this is going to be kind of adversarial. This may be adversarial. This is the council members who are not necessarily going through the administration to bring an item to the agenda. So it may be an adversarial between the council members and the mayor, and you got to be careful. You don't want to get involved in their fights. But mostly, so far, it has been mostly just a matter of making sure that the council members, when they bring an item, making sure that actually, making sure it's legal. I did a panel at the CBC a couple weeks ago, and I said the big 3 things on Proposition A is, first of all, is it legal? If it's not legal, then we can't do anything about it. We can't do it at all. The second thing is, can it actually be done by the city? So, there's a lot of ideas, but the question is, who's actually going to do it at the end of the day? So there's going to be some department or some departments that come together and say, we're going to do this because this is the law now. This is the ordinance that's going to be passed on behalf of the city. We need to be able to actually carry this out. And if it can't be done, or if it has to be worded a certain way to be done, that needs to be known on the front end. So you don't just put something out and then the department say we can't do this. So you want to make sure that is thought of. And then the final thing is, will we get sued behind it?
People are literally walking around waiting for the opportunity to sue for just about anything.
Well, I mean, and as a lawyer, I understand the purpose of being sued. You have the ability to sue to say, no, we can't. I mean, right now, the courts are what's holding the federal government away from a lot of these, from implementing a lot of this process. So they're there for a reason. And I don't have a problem with, the suit process. But you as a city, when you think about it from the point of view of, before we implement this, have we thought it through in a manner that if we can justify ourselves in court? So that's the point. It's like getting sued is one thing. Okay, it happens. We might get sued for it. Some apartment or somebody says we don't like this and it's going to affect my tax value or whatever. I'm going to sue the city, but at least we can say we can justify whatever position we have taken in court and say we have our bases covered, at least before we just do it and get sued and say, well, maybe we don't.
Here's a hot topic item.
Okay.
The homelessness bill, or I want to say ordinance that was just passed. There was a lot of people taking issue with that.
You're talking about from the White House, or you're talking about locally?
Locally.
Okay, yeah.
How do we deal with that? How do you guys, as a city of Houston, deal with that?
It's homelessness is a tricky issue.
Why so?
Well, there's so many factors involved, and unfortunately, not enough resources to go to address underlying issues. In my opinion.
Okay.
I think there are, of course, you have mental health issues, and the biggest mental health facility is the jail, unfortunately. Unfortunately, so as opposed to having, maybe state and federal resources go towards things that, okay, we have people, especially veterans, because a lot of people don't realize a good bit of the homeless population are veterans. It's like,
why is that?
I'm not sure. And maybe, as a sociologist, maybe, I don't know. I'm sure there maybe has studies done on it, but there's I think like a third or half of the homeless population, whatever it was a big percentage are veterans. And, for whatever reason, we don't address what is causing people to end up on the street a lot of times. We deal with them when they're on the streets a lot of times because unfortunately, a lot of times people see them as a nuisance or they're bad for business or whatever. That's when people start getting involved, but it's very reactionary as opposed to saying, how did this person end up on the street? How can we help? And that's kind of part of, my thought too is, process of gearing up for, running for state rep. And the point is,
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. But I mean, the point is, how can you help the least of these, so to speak, for those who are, who believe in the Bible or, who have studied at least, that whole principle of, caring for the least of thee. And I think you can't get much more least than the people who are actually sleeping on the street. And we can't say we always do the best by them. I know we've tried to restrict where we can hand out food and where those things. And sometimes there may be council members that work on it, and I work with them on it.
Okay.
Regardless of any of my opinions on it, if they come up with an idea, it's my job to work on it with them. But I think a lot of times, going from the higher level view is I'm always an upstream kind of guy. What is causing this person to end up here? And what can we do to address it? And I think that we still societally, we don't really address a lot of the underlying things that cause more people to be on the street.
Well, let me ask you, if you had the opportunity to solve that problem with, Houstonians being homeless on the streets and being homeless even if they're not actually on the street, because, sometimes they may not have their own place.
Right.
What would you do to fix that?
I will figure out what is causing people to choose the street over whatever, because there are places that accept people, but I think sometimes I say, well, there's too many rules, and if I got to do all that to be there, I just would rather just sit in my tent. But figuring out what is causing this person to say, I'm gonna take that back. I don't want to say choosing the street,
okay, because there are some people who actually do choose to be on the street.
There are some, but then there are some people who are like, look, I just had a rough patch for whatever reason. I had a rough patch, and figuring out what it is that caused people to get there. So. That is always my thing, and what can help. So with that being said, when you realize, okay, this is what caused you to get here. So what steps can we take to get you on your feet and actually able to kind of live and breathe on your own? So it's like, okay, I just need an opportunity for a job. I need an opportunity for maybe I have a disability check coming in, but for whatever reason I'm having a hard time. Whatever that would be to help you get off on your own and be able to stay on your own. Maybe you need medication. Like maybe it is a mental health issue, and like okay, I have a medication, but I didn't like the way this medication made me feel, or something like that. So how do we get you on a regimen that will help you stand on your own 2 feet and move forward, as opposed to just saying, well, you're congregating in the places that we don't want you in.
Yeah, because one homeless individual that I spoke with, he stated that he got cited and received a court date. In which he had to pay him, $250 or something like that. And I looked at him and I says, are you working? Of course, if he was working, he probably wouldn't, be in that position.
Right.
And he says, no, but I'm not paying the $250 because I'm homeless.
Right.
If I have $250, I'm going to buy something to eat. Right. That's what he said. What are your thoughts on that particular perspective?
I understand. It's like, yeah, and I've seen them go around the horseshoe talking about that too, because when it comes to citations, people are giving fines. It's like, well, how are they gonna pay it? And that's the question. It's like, well, if you don't have a place to stay, you don't have a guaranteed meal, then yes, in the order of priorities, that citation is not going to ever.
So why even issue a citation?
Why issue a citation?
I'm quite sure the police officers really don't want to do that.
I don't think they do, and I think generally, I think the idea really should be to try to address the issue without the citation. I think typically, from what I understand, and I'm not a police officer, but from what I understand, typically, the idea for a lot of the citations, the point usually when they get to the citation is like, we've kind of talked to this person again and again and again. And it's like, I guess at some point they'll say, well, I've kind of warned you multiple times, and ultimately there has to be some consequence.
But where do they go? I mean, they shut down. Well, again, they shut down the Greyhound bus line right there downtown, right? And then they put it somewhere in East End. Then not all, but many of the homeless people flooded the East End part of town right here in Houston, probably not too far from here.
Right.
And now the residents started complaining.
Of course, yeah, they were complaining downtown too.
Right. So like, where are homeless people to go? Houston is almost 650 plus square miles. Can we not, as a city, find a place for these people to go and thrive?
Yeah, but it's going to require resources, and we as a society have to be willing to put the resources to give them a place, and places that will be able to accommodate them. Because I think that, like I mentioned earlier, if somebody is saying, I will try to go to this men's or women's shelter, but then some of them say, I may have a dog. They don't allow dogs, so I would rather stay.
This is true.
I would rather just stay with my dog than to have to go there and leave.
Because that dog may be the only family that they have.
Correct. So I mean, for whatever the reason is, I mean, I don't think we are putting it as a priority. I think when it comes to priorities, as a society, we look for, we definitely don't look at the least in our community, like the homeless or the people who are struggling, the working poor, things like that. We put a lot of emphasis on the people who make a lot of money, and we do a lot of those things. But when it comes to giving resources to people who need it, to either get them off the street or to keep them off the street, we don't do a very good job at that, especially in this state. I think
let me ask you, because didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
What is Houston as a city going to do about the excessive rent that people are having to pay here? Now, listen, I'm coming from Chicago, right?
Right.
Rent is pretty consistent unless something in the market happens that says, people say, hey, we have to raise the rates because this happened.
Right.
But right here in Houston, the rent can be, let's say, $800 today, but tomorrow it could be $1,100.
Right.
What's happening here?
That's a free market issue, and this is why places like New York and other places have those rent controls, because
Are we going to do that here?
I haven't heard any word that it will be anytime, and I don't. If it were to even come up, I'd be really curious on how well it would do, just because. Just knowing the dynamics of who would come in and who would have the money to fight it,
Who would have the money to fight something like that?
I mean, who would have the money to argue would be the landlords, of course. And I've been a landlord, so I'm not, I'm not knocking landlords, but I'm saying, if you're talking about people who would need it, the rent control would be for low income people, but they would probably not be as loud and have as much financial wherewithal or ability to come on and argue it before city council and say we need this rent control because X, Y, Z versus a corporation who these corporations who run these places who may have given some campaign contributions would probably.
All right, so are we doing politics over people?
Sometimes it happens. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in the reality, a lot of times, yes. And I'm not saying that's
no. It's not a bad thing or good thing. It's just
I'm not saying that's what's
reality.
happening right now, but yes. But that is usually how that works out. So this is how that plays out. Because ultimately, like if the city for the city to do it, the city would need to put it on the agenda that we're gonna start ordering rent controls. So then who does that bring out? That's going to bring out the apartment associations. That's going to bring out all these landlords. And maybe some activists who are pushing for rent control, the activists who are pushing for that. But it's going to be now it's going to be a matter of, okay, the landlords versus the folks who are doing that. And you're going to have all these people say, hey, don't you want to rent your place out? Or they're going to bring a lot more people and probably a lot more resources than then that. But I'm not saying that can't be done. I'm just saying that is the hurdle that you have to kind of anticipate on trying to get to that point.
With 47% of Houstonians one paycheck away from an eviction,
Right. Yes.
something has to be done at some point in time. With the rent being what it is, the job market being what it is, and we'll talk about jobs in a minute because I have a couple of questions as far as jobs in Houston.
Absolutely.
I mean, these are financial, economic hard times that people are facing. What is Houston going to do to tackle that?
Well, and that's the question. I mean, historically, Houston has not really had to do rent control a lot because Houston has, being an unzoned city, has kept costs relatively low compared to other major cities. So, and I think that was, if you look at some historical Houston attitudes and some of the things they said, well, we don't care if you got a pothole, at least you have the money in your pocket to fix it because it doesn't cost so much to live here. That has changed a lot.
It has changed.
So, we're going to have to make some adjustments towards that change now, whether it be something like rent control or whether that be, whatever the solution may be, that is going to be a big decision for the city, and that's going to be an uphill fight at this point, I will say.
I can understand that. Transitioning to jobs.
Right.
One of the big things that I'm seeing is that people are saying, hey, I may have had a felony or a misdemeanor. I need a job, but not just any job. I need a job that affords me with a livable wage.
Correct.
What is Houston doing to address that? I'm sorry if it's a tough question, but
No, I got you. I mean, and when you say Houston, like not the city. Well, the city. I know the city does certain things. I know. There are a lot of different city council members do job fairs. I know they'll do that. They'll bring it out to a community.
Again, job fairs. I used to work for Baker Ripley as a recruiter, right? Baker Ripley's numbers right now are roughly at the 36% as far as placing people in jobs.
Okay.
36%. Okay. That's failing.
About a third of the people who come get something.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So now we're looking at that low number of people actually getting jobs in which the city does actually pay for Baker Ripley to do, which they're failing on. And then we're looking at people saying, hey man, I am vastly underemployed.
Right.
I went to college. I got the degree.
Right.
I'm making $10 an hour. Some people even making $7.25 right here in Houston.
Which is wild. I mean, the fact that it's been $7.25 for how many years was all like about 20? It's been a minute. That is an indictment on us as a society as well. I mean, we can't even move it to the double digits. I mean, at this point, it's ridiculous to that's the floor.
I mean, it takes what $18 to afford a one bedroom,
right?
And yet the city and all over the country, for most parts, will subscribe to this lower wage bracket.
Right.
It should be illegal.
Well, it should be, but this goes back to a history. Our floor has been even lower before. We've been at zero. so people that look like us came over for zero, and unfortunately, that low floor is a thing that most other industrialized nations have set a much higher minimum floor.
Okay.
We have not done that, and is
there any reason for that?
Well, they've said it, and we haven't.
Yeah.
Part of it is what I just mentioned. Like, part of it is that we have gotten comfortable in this country of letting some people just not do well at all. We let a whole segment of the population be enslaved. We let a whole segment of the population be basically legally disenfranchised. Whole segments of population, because it was it was mostly black and white once upon a time. Now it's black, brown, and white. They didn't let brown people do well either, but now their numbers are much bigger than they were. But so we have gotten comfortable as a society of just letting certain people struggle, whereas other societies have said, and some people argue, well, like those European nations or some of those like that, European nations are like a homogenous society. They're not quite the bowl that we have. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it's just a matter that we're quite comfortable saying nope. If you can't afford, a place, that's on you. If you can't afford healthcare, they have.
But I will say this about maybe that's a Harris County thing. The gold what is it, the gold
Gold
star?
card? Yeah, gold card.
I like that idea. That's pretty good. That saved a lot of people.
I had it myself when I was finishing. Like, so when I was finishing law school, I got a gold card because I was studying for the bar. Just got married, had a baby on the way, all kind of things going on, and my face stopped working. I was like, what in the hell? I was like, did I have a stroke? I was like, I was 25, 26 years old or something. I was 26 years old. And I was like, what the hell happened? So, I finally, and that's when I found out what Bell's palsy was, and I was like, okay, apparently all the stress just manifested in my face stopped working. So,
Really?
Yeah. So I found out, I was like, go get a gold card, go get checked out, and because like I was of the age where I passed, I was like fell off my parents' insurance, but I was like I just graduated like 2 weeks before, so I was like I have no job yet. I'm studying for the bar. So I was like I need something. So I went there, got and they were like, yeah, Bell's palsy. It'll probably they just like here you can try some things, but this is kind of what it is. But that was my introduction to the gold card because I was like, I was like, did I have? I thought I was like, did I have a stroke? Because I had no idea what any of this was at the time. So, but yeah, the gold card that's a good program. But that is not it's not a universal program. I believe in universal health care. I think we should have a universal health care. That's what all the other industrialized nations do too. They even our neighbors to the north.
That is such a complex conversation.
Yeah.
There are people that saying, hey, healthcare is okay for it to be privatized. It's a legal entity, it's a legal business. They should be able to do what they want with their business. If I had a business, I wouldn't want anybody to tell me what to do with mine. But the overwhelming majority of people are saying, hey, if I'm too sick, I can't get to work. I can't afford to miss work, right? I can't even afford to miss work to go to the doctor.
Correct. Yeah, healthcare is paramount. I mean, if you're not well, you can't do anything. You can't work. You can't learn. You can't. Any of the things you're trying to do makes a hill of beans. Don't make a hill of beans if you're not healthy enough to do it. So yeah, healthcare is paramount. And unfortunately, and I've had some conversations with people. Unfortunately, some people are like, it's okay. If it's okay for some people to just to be sick and die, and that is a terrible indictment on us. I am, and even unfortunately, even for some people, because I think for some people they feel like if I have to wait a little bit longer to get to the doctor because everybody has health care, I don't like that.
Well, we have a shortage of doctors, of all sorts, really.
Yeah.
And we have an exceptionally high turnover rate for nurses, nursing.
Right.
What is Houston going to do about that? What systems or processes does Houston have in place possibly to help alleviate that issue?
I mean, one thing about Houston that we have going for us is we have the medical center. I mean, we have the best doctors in the world, the highest concentration of doctors in the world, right here at our fingertips. I think so. We do well on that, and we have. I mean, I know a lot of people, pretty much anybody I know in the state, that if they've ever got cancer, they end up coming here. It doesn't matter where they are in the state. I know, because I went to high school in Arlington, Texas, but I've had a couple people I went to high school with that they've gotten sick and they've come down here to get their treatments done. So it is. We have anything you can imagine in the healthcare space. But yeah, we have a large population. So I think we need to have incentives for more people to go into the space, and it's hard to do, especially with the cost of medical school. I mean, medical school is expensive.
It is,
and even worse so now, where they're talking about like not forgiving loans, because I think that's another thing too. Because like if
that
you go
is
into
very unfair.
Yeah, if you go into that much debt, you make a lot of money as a doctor, but
but it still evens out at the end of the day. $300,000 for a doctor's salary, but his student loans is like $300,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if you have a really good mortgage on the education space, educational mortgage, I like to say, if you have an educational mortgage, and you have your own mortgage, it becomes tough. So there's that, and I mean, and people are frustrated with our system, and I think the most extreme example, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but the most extreme example you saw was when you saw that CEO get killed, and I don't.
That was a big deal.
That was a big deal, and you would think that out of that people would be, some people, of course, people were like, oh my gosh, that's awful, but the conversation you saw come about afterwards, though, was a lot of people saying how frustrated they were with their insurance, and that was a big indictment to me on the insurance industry generally, of health insurance specifically. It's like how many people have said, were complaining about how the horrors they went through, and we really could do better. I think that is going to, but we tried. I think Affordable Care Act was an attempt. I don't think it went far enough.
Okay.
I think it was a step in the right direction. And I think they tried, and I'm glad they were able to do something. But I think ultimately, I do think everybody should have. I think you should have. I think healthcare is a right. I think in a country as wealthy as we are, it should be a right. It's like, okay, I'm sick, I go to the doctor. We don't have to worry about all the getting kicked off our insurance, or we don't have to worry about getting I've known people that said, I had a friend of mine, he got injured or something like that while he was in school. He was on his parents' insurance. This is when we were back in college.
Wow.
But it happened during the summer. And they said, and he was in school in the summer, but they were like, well, technically you didn't have enough hours to be considered a full-time student. So we're technically not going to claim you. This is what the insurance, kind of did. It was like, they're there to make money. I get it. But it's not, making money in certain spaces is probably not for the best interest of
profit over people, politics over people. Is this what we come to in 2025?
Oh, I think we've been there. I think we've been there long before 2025. Hey, we've been there long before 2025. I think that is a thing we're grappling with. I think as we try to address these issues, we have to kind of grapple with that. Yeah, I mean we live in a society where money was a big deal. It's a form of speech. It's a fundamental. It's pretty much fundamental. It's a capitalist society. So the capital. At one point, we were the capital, and
this is true.
Even the slavery, we talk about money over people. I mean, that is the clear example of money was way more important than some of our ancestors, and that conversation. So, yeah, it filters to other spaces. I mean, I think it filters to healthcare. I think they did a good segment of that in the 1619 project. Well, how do you tie the lack of healthcare to slavery but it's like I was saying earlier, when you put the floor way down at in the level of slavery, then a lot of other things we kind of just as a society we kind of live with, and it's unfortunate. But
well, let me ask you: you're running for political office. The first question people are going to ask: are you Republican, Democrat, or Independent?
I'm a Democrat.
Okay.
I'm running as a Democrat, and and it's funny too because I like to hear the Republicans, especially people I know, when they start saying, the Democrats were the party of the Klan, and they say the Republicans are the party of Lincoln, and I just, I say, well, O.J. Simpson was a football player, but when he died, did anybody think about his football career? It's like, no, there's some things happened between the football career and the time he died that made a shift, and that was the thing with the parties. I do understand. I think black people have, myself included, and I personally have wished that the Republican Party have actually did the opposite of what it's done and gave it a real party, because I think most of the time black people have kind of gone with their best interests. Once upon a time it was the Republican Party. After the Civil Rights Movement, it's been the Democratic Party. And during the era of Bush was when I was kind of like, I wish the Republicans would send a more serious candidate, so ultimately make the Democrats work hard. I'm an elected Democrat, but I have been an elected Democrat, but I even said that then. I was like, give me a reason to work instead of just. But they kind of went the opposite and picked the guy who literally has the Klan cheering him on. So it's kind of gone a different route. But so I think as of now, the Republican Party is just not going to be appeasing to black people. I wish they would give black people more of an option and make Democrats work harder. I think that's why Democrats' messaging is really tough right now, because it's like the other party is just so repugnant. But at the same time, they're not giving them. It doesn't seem like they're giving, as a whole, people the reason to run or to run to the polls to vote for them. So that is the big thing. Is okay. So. As opposed, and you don't want to just say, well, we're better than that guy. That's not a message. You need to say, no, this is what we stand for, and this is why you need to get up and come vote. But no, I'm a Democrat. I used to make jokes. I'm a Democrat by default because the other side is just not worth my time, and that's become even more true lately. But I mean, so yeah, at this point, it's going to have to be. At this point, the Democrats are going to have to. Have been doing that. I'm sure there's a lot of thought process going on right now, and that part of my running too is to kind of make a difference, because a lot of people thinking, well, okay, you're a Democrat in Texas, like, what does that do? But and then, you know, but I think actually people don't realize Texas, if there's no Texas for the Republicans, there's no White House for the Republicans. I think people miss that part. And even in my district, which is super Democratic.
Which one is your district?
So I'm in District 142, so basically it's the northeast side of Houston. So
northeast side of Texas, Houston, Texas, 142.
So that's basically from, you know, for those who are familiar with the Houston area, it's 5th Ward, which is the east edge of downtown, up to like Lake Houston, and it goes as far high as 1960. It goes as far east as Barrett. Some people know it as Barrett Station, but it is a good swath of land on the northeast side, but it has some of the highest, some of the highest issues. The school district takeover happened in the district from the schools that were in the district. There's the lowest life expectancy.
Wow.
By zip codes, are usually the zip codes that are right there in the district.
Why is that?
Underinvestment in the communities. So when I first got elected to the county school board back in 2018, the year after they did a life study, a life study by zip code, and the zip code that had the lowest life expectancy was Cashmere. The zip code that sits right between Wheatley and Cashmere High School. Those are the two schools cited in the Houston takeover. But you also realize it has like the second lowest income, there's a cancer cluster going on there. There's a whole variety of reasons, but most of that is because the underinvestment in that side of town.
Why is there an investment in that side of Houston?
In short, because it's the black side of town.
Really?
Yeah. So 5th Ward, a lot of people who remember the historic 5th Ward, a very live and thriving area. But they did things like run a freeway through it. So you run 59 through it. It has, 59 had all these lanes. It cuts right through Lyons Avenue. It cut off one of the main thoroughfares and one of the main business centers of 5th Ward. Then you have like a lot of the, they're finding these cancer clusters from like some of the railroad issues and some of the there were a lot of the concrete, and even currently they're putting concrete plants there. And
how does that affect people?
Well, it makes the air quality terrible. Okay. There was an article that came out last week, I think it was last week, but where they were talking about some of the worst air quality they found in the state have been right there in the district because they have all these plants and these commercial industries still right there. But why were they targeted there? A lot of times it was like historically there was a black community that had no political power. They couldn't even hardly vote before the Civil Rights Act, before the Voting Rights Act. Okay. You couldn't most of the community couldn't even vote. So when it's time to put something if you're going to dump something somewhere that's either an eyesore that's going to be not great for the health, a lot of times it was going to end up in our communities, and they did.
Okay, so we're looking at pollution, poor air quality, the inability for people to live long lives. We're looking at poor education, poor infrastructure, not just in Kashmir, but all across the state of Texas, across the country, to be honest with you. You running for the particular seat that you're running for, how do you plan to tackle that?
Well, my one word is opportunity. Creating those opportunities. So, I did a survey of the residents, and the biggest thing they're looking for is economic empowerment and healthcare. Okay. And which makes sense because when I mentioned the lowest life expectancy being in the district, it's over 20 years less than some of the other parts of the county. Wow. Same county, if you go about 20 miles west,
that's 2 decades.
Yeah, 2 decades life shortened by what zip code you live in, and so. Economic opportunity, economics comes first because like we said before, there's no money. Money makes a lot of things move in this country.
It does,
and even if it helps, but the way you upcycle a neighborhood is you bring more money to the neighborhood.
How do you plan on doing that?
Giving more opportunity for jobs. So making sure, making sure that people are able to get jobs, making sure that there are opportunity for jobs, and if for some reason there's a skill mismatch, make sure they have opportunity to get those skills to go get those jobs. So that's the big thing, is making sure people have opportunity to get those jobs.
Let's be more specific. Okay. What types of jobs or specific jobs would you push to come into 5th Ward?
Honestly, a lot of entrepreneur opportunities. So I was actually having this discussion. Last week I was speaking to a group that about jobs, and because some people were saying, "Hey, I got a record, I'm having a hard time," and I said, "Well, okay, get a job, get something to eat right now, but long term, your biggest thing you really want to do is to create your own." because you may get $7.25. You may get, even if you get $15 or $20 an hour, nobody's going to pay you like you.
I mean, this is true, but I mean, looking at the record for entrepreneurs, I mean, it's a very, very tough thing and endeavor to embark on.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, entrepreneurs really don't know when they're going to have an opportunity to get a paycheck. So, and again, I'm not being biased or anything like that. I'm looking at that and I'm saying, I think that most people that live in Fifth Ward need a job now.
No, I agree. So I agree. So like there's the right now and there's the
later.
Yeah, exactly. So the right now, get a job. Let's find a job that works for you. Let's find a job that if you need a set of skill set, like if you need, so I got a buddy of mine that does trucking, like he does he has a trucking company and trucking school. If that's something that you're comfortable with, like get the skills, get a job, because they have big contracts coming out right now, from what I understand, from like the Port of Houston. There are some major money moving around. So, but like if you need a CDL, if you need what is a CDL
license?
Yeah, if you need a CDL license, let's get you that. And let's figure out how to get you in that position to get that. One of the other things, when I was on the board for Harris County Department of Education, that was a program that we had a lot of free training as well.
Okay.
People giving people things in areas like like nurse practitioners. I'm sorry, not practitioners. I'm sorry, like nurse assistants. Some people in construction spaces. There were a number of things, and it was all free. So trying to match that with the people who qualify. So I mean that was open to anybody in the county. So it's like we can make sure you get there, get those skills, and go get that job that actually puts money in your pocket right now. And then long term, yes. When there's more money coming in people's pockets, more businesses you can create your own business, and more businesses will be able to start coming.
Okay.
So having conversations with business owners. I'm a business owner myself, but like. What you realize with business, I think I remember having a discussion with my frat brother Marcus Davis at the Breakfast Club, and I was talking to him about. But he's from the north side as well. He's from the district, and I asked him. I said, well, as a business owner, as a successful business owner, you got a really successful spot here. What would you say, about having businesses, over in that space? And he's like, business go where the business is. So
true.
You want to make sure you have people that have enough money to start to attract those businesses. So you want to increase the amount of money in those communities so they can have. That's when grocery stores come back. It's like, okay,
yes,
this community has the resources to kind of purchase our food, as opposed to it's sitting and they say that the price is too high, we can't get anything there.
Wow.
So that is. So, but it all starts with getting people money now. Getting them the money in their pocket and/or the skills they need to go get the money in their pocket immediately. That is kind of step one. You can't really pass go without doing that.
Okay.
And then when you do that and there's more money, then you can start looking at things like entrepreneurship, businesses, small businesses, bringing more businesses to the community. And starting with figuring out, okay, what do we need to do to get you out there and get you some paper in your pocket right now? That's kind of step one. And I think some people are doing that process. I think I give it a shout out to Councilmember Pollard. He has a whole website, I think, just for jobs. I think he.
Okay, now what kind of jobs is Pollard? Councilman Pollard looking to bring in?
I think I think what is his website? I think it's like More Jobs or something like that, Houston Jobs or something like that. But whatever they are, I think they continue to get updated. So I think there's a variety. I don't think there's like one type. I think it's like multiple industries, multiple things, and that's kind of the idea. Is like, hey, you need to know where to. And I think to the degree of, okay, certain communities, like we just need to make sure that people have access to that or just have the knowledge, okay, and I think that's why they do bring career fairs and things like that out there.
Here's a big thing about those career fairs and job fairs. Mm-hmm. They are largely ineffective. Mm-hmm. On my end, I believe they should be outlawed.
Okay.
Because the people are wasting time. Mm-hmm. They're putting gas in cars with money they don't have. Mm-hmm. They are going to places that sometimes are out of reach. Remember, it's 600 and plus square miles for Houston.
Right.
And they're coming out of these job fairs with nothing.
So let me ask you that.
Okay.
Because you've been on the forefront of this space. Then what would you suggest?
Hiring events. This is what I'm a big advocate of this. Even when I worked over at Baker Whippley as a recruiter, I say, listen, it has to be hiring events. Background checks should be able to be ran right there. I know this because I was in a police academy, and I can run a background in 30 seconds.
Okay.
Why does it take 3 weeks, 3 months for a company to run a background check for a person who needed a job 3 months ago? That's the first thing. The second thing is the ability to hire on the spot.
Okay.
When you go to many of these different these companies that have the job boards, career boards, these jobs are sitting in that system 3-4 months. Oftentimes these jobs may have been filled and never been took out of the system. So therefore people are applying for jobs that are technically not even there.
Right. Okay.
You see, so these are some of the things that people have come to me to help kind of solve, and my hands have been tied because I don't have the power to do such or to make such a mandate. You see what I'm saying? So I really believe in efficiency, effectiveness, and speed. 2025, you should be able to hire somebody within an hour.
Okay.
I believe that.
No, I like it. I like it. I mean, but you know, to your point, and actually, that's kind of part. I think that's what you, as a representative of anybody, these are the kind of conversations that need to be had to say, okay, we need to, like, if you're going to have a career fair or a job fair, you need to say, you need to have the ability to hire some people.
Yes, you have to be able to run that background on the spot. That means if you can't get in the NICS, there is some kind of third party, which there is, right, to run that background check. It either takes a phone call or you got that system sitting right in front of you or a representative from that particular third party to run that background check on the spot.
Okay. Within the hour or within the day, like within 24 hours, like we're gonna run this through the chain, and then okay, so we've done a background check, we've done this, we've done that. Are you ready to go? Like,
Because I mean, if the jobs are saying, these employers are saying, we can't find people, even with law enforcement. Law enforcement, by large and far, not only in Houston but around this country, are saying, hey, we can't find anybody.
Right.
People are not qualified. Well, what I found is that there are so many barriers. And bear in mind, you need less than a high school education to become a police officer.
Right.
And you're only going to train for 6 months.
Right.
But they can't find anyone.
Right.
So my question is, why are we allowing agencies, law enforcement agencies, and I'm not cracking down on law enforcement or anything like that, but it's a legitimate question and point. Why are we allowing them to have so many barriers where you're desperate for people? Officers are being burned out. They can't fight crime like that.
Right.
But you're not hiring. Even right here in Houston, Mayor Whitmire, he stated that, hey, a lot of these officers don't have guns. They can't afford them to come into the academy. Now, I know better than that because I cut the article on that, and I'm going to raise the bullshit flag on that. And when I say that, I can say that because here at VEDA we don't do a censorship here. Okay. But I'm raising the bullshit flag on that. You get $350 piece right from Academy Sports. Okay. And if you really want to be a police officer, you've probably thought about it about a year, 6 months. That's enough to go get a job at McDonald's and get a $350 piece. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So the opportunities to hire police officers, more officers, no matter the type and no matter the level, is there. It's just that people are not hiring. They're choosing who they want. Right.
No, I understand that, and that's a whole different discussion. And I think, I mean, we've seen biases play out on a lot of things. Okay. And they hamstring. I think to your point, I think they do hamstring a lot of industries, and they definitely hamstring people that apply to look like us. I think we've seen that. They say, I think you have a better chance of getting a job if you have a felony as a white guy than you do as a non-felon as a black guy.
And again, it is a true statement. It is a true finding, and it is an unfortunate one. Yeah. You know, but again, not picking on any industry. It's the facts are the facts. My question is, once you get into this seat, what is your plan of attack for that?
To be a resource and make sure the state provides the resources for the cities and the parts of town to do that. And I don't think that's just a urban thing. Because I mean we're mostly urban in that district, but you know, high unemployment rate is also common in rural Texas.
Yes, it is.
That economics is a nonpartisan issue. It should be a nonpartisan issue. So making sure there are resources available for underinvested in neighborhoods, underinvested in areas, so which can be urban inner cities and or rural parts of Texas. That should be common ground that we can get, and that should be able to get buy-in from both sides of the aisle and say, okay, well, what kind of resources do we need to give now that unfortunately those aren't the deep pocket issues. Those aren't the issues that push. But that would be the issue that affects a lot of people. I think it would help a lot of people. So that would be what I'd be looking to invest in is making sure the state pours resources, as opposed to pouring resources to private schools or to all these other things that we're pushing right now. I think that's where and that will give the best bang for the buck. That would reduce crime, because when people have money in their pocket, they're less likely to rob you.
This is true.
So,
I was a victim of a $10,000 theft last month.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And I'm not even upset about it, because I do understand these are very hard economic times. I'm not condoning anyone stealing anything.
Right.
But I mean, I was a victim because this person who robbed us probably couldn't find a job.
It wasn't at gunpoint. Was it at gunpoint?
No.
Got your stuff. Okay. So I've been robbed at gunpoint.
It's scary.
Yeah, I mean, and it was confusing at the time. I think it took me a few seconds to even realize what was going on. I just realized, I was like, I thought he was asking for directions. I was like, is that a gun? Oh, wait a minute. I got a gun. I had to put together what was going on. I was like, is he asking me for directions? He kind of pulled up in front of me, and I was like, what is he saying? And I kind of leaned in. I was like, wait a minute. What is he saying?
Is that a Smith & Wesson?
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. I finally dawned on me, that's what's going on. Wait a minute. Because he wasn't yelling or anything. I think in the movie they said, freeze, give me another. No, it was nothing like that. It was just like, the guy just talking. And I was like, I guess he just had the piece out. And I was just like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, well, here's the wallet, here's the key.
Ain't nothing you can do.
Here's the wallet, here's the phone.
Give it up.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, had he had money in his pocket, I doubt that would have been the case. So yeah, I mean, making sure people have money in their pocket is the thing. So, but making sure there are resources available, because the state and the feds have the biggest pocketbooks, and making sure that money goes to the people on the ground, as opposed to the people at the top giving tax breaks, giving money to people who can already afford it.
Transitioning lastly into education. Houston is not doing well. Houston Independent School District, HISD. What is your plans to solve that issue?
Well, the first thing I want to do is get TEA out of their business.
Mike Miles?
Yeah. I never thought that TEA takeover was the way to go.
Okay.
Personally, and actually, a lot of people don't know the incumbent in my district is one of the authors of that bill.
Why?
His rationale was that his school, which I mentioned earlier, Wheatley, his high school was one of the causes for the takeover, because they failed like for 6 or 7 years in a row. I completely understand the school district needs to do more, and I agree with him even to the point where when he said that you should not send your least qualified teachers to your most needy schools, because, like I said, that area has very high socioeconomic issues that need to be addressed. So I agree. You should probably send your best teachers as opposed
to those particular schools.
I agree.
But those teachers don't want to go to those schools.
They don't, but you have to figure out ways to do incentives to get them there. So and that's a school district thing. I could agree with that point. But where you have a whole takeover, because it ultimately came down to that one school. That was the one school. They got all the other schools off the needing to pass list, and that was the school that triggered the takeover. And I think in the school district, right now the state is kind of just doing what they want to do. They don't have to answer anybody. They don't have to answer the voters, and I think that's always a bad thing. Whereas I think I'm working on a proposal to make that more of a financial incentive than a complete takeover. I think complete takeover should be reserved for, they're mismanaging everything. They're mismanaging money. They're mismanaging schools. The schools are failing. The money is getting stolen. There needs to be an intervention. I think if you have almost 300 schools and one school triggers a takeover, that is, way more draconian than anything we needed to have here.
But you were stating the takeover for HISD. In your position, how would you address that?
So get the takeover out of there. First of all, I don't think anybody here feels comfortable. Even if they were to clean up the school district, I don't think anybody feels comfortable with the TA. A lot of people are just wondering, there's no accountability for them at all right now. They don't have to answer to anybody but the chairman of the TA. I'm sorry, Mike Miles answers to Mike what's Mike? The TA.
I would never know because I'm not from here.
Mike Morath. Yeah, Mike Morath.
Okay.
This is the Mike and Mike. So I think Mike. So who answers to Greg Abbott? And I think people in the district are not necessarily thinking that Greg Abbott has their best interest in mind.
Really?
So even if they were to do great work, I don't know if it would even be well received. But like I said before, it's like having almost 300 schools and having one school trigger a takeover is not a good idea. I think there should be incentives put in place where a school district can't leave any school behind. My proposal is that they have escalating fines. If you leave schools behind, you make sure that if any school is left behind, that school district can potentially be fined enough to where they can actually make sure they address it and not just leave it like they did in this case. But ultimately, everything you need to do can be done in incentives, because I think if a school district realizes, if I let the school fail, I'm going to get hit with a penalty, and we can't afford that penalty. So we're going to make sure if that penalty is enough where it's like, okay, well, as opposed to doing that, maybe I need to put some more resources into the school to make sure they do not get left behind. I think that's the better approach than to have a whole school district being taken over by the state and kind of going at it. I wish them the best. I hope they're doing, it's hard to, that there's been a lot of controversy over, they say we're doing better, but like based on whose metrics, right. There's a lot of that going on right now. And I think at the end of the day, I hope the school district does better, but ultimately I still think it needs to be done by the people who are local and actually have a vested interest in the community as opposed
Understood.
to.
Where can people find you?
I'm easy to find, Danny Norris, the number 4tx.com, DannyNorris4tx.com. I'm on all the socials. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on TikTok. I'm easy to find. So Threads, all over the place. So I'm really easy to find. Just Danny Norris, DannyNorris4tx.com. And then you can see my website. If you're interested in getting involved, you can go there if you want to donate, which is a big deal. You can unfortunately, it's not just about the best candidates, the candidate who can get their message out most effectively, and a lot of that
Correct.
costs money. So, but all that can be done on the website. So easy to find.
Okay, well, I have to definitely say it is an absolute pleasure to have you right here at VEDA World News, right here at Houston Media Source. Thank you for this interview, and I would love to have you here again.
At any time. Pleasure, and I appreciate you having me coming out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.